Hey Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just looked out my window and the snow stopped, so I'm glad for that. It's still mid-October here as we're recording this, and I wasn't quite ready to start shoveling and snow blowing yet.
No doubt about that. We got a great topic today, though. I'm excited about
Yep,
talking about love and money and everything in between, right?
yep. I had originally titled this "Love and Happiness." We'll see if that sticks when we go to post it. But yeah, you know, to to quote the old Beatles song cliche, "Can't buy me love," right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. This business is very related to, obviously, we're financial planners, so we deal with money all the time, but it
Hmm.
also, we have a saying around here that we throw out to pretty much everybody that will listen, and that is, it's not about the money you have, it's about what you do with those resources to get a better return on life.
Right, right.
So that's a lot about what we want to talk about and what we want to dive into today.
Yeah, yeah. That relationship between your money and what you do with it. Clients will tell you, I repeat all the time, your money's only as good as what you do with it. And if if you don't think about it that way, there's not a lot of point to the whole planning. Um, Yeah, so and kind of the way we see our role as planners, and I think you would echo this, is kind of to figure that relationship out with people and help them understand it.
Absolutely. When you think about clients coming in and having a financial plan and kind of moving the pieces of the puzzle around, if clients come in and know exactly what makes them happy and what they want to do with life, the rest of it's kind of easy.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, like most of us, we don't spend too much time thinking about that. We don't spend too much time, working on ourselves and what's important to us and what we want to accomplish. We don't really give ourselves that space. And so a lot of our process is following George Kinder and the evoke process and
Hmm.
making sure that we understand what's most important to you, because that way we can then take the resources that you have and kind of put things together around what's most important to you. And it's
Right.
interesting because you don't think of, money is definitely not the most important thing, but when you're searching for happiness in those decisions that you're making, 99% of all the decisions you make have some sort of money, are related to money in some sort of way. And so you
Right.
can't you
Right.
can't get around it. It's just a
Yeah.
fact of life, especially
Yeah.
living in
Yeah.
the current society that we live in.
Right. Right. If you stop, and think about what makes you happy, and we ask clients for their goals, and we help them figure out what those should be. But we usually hear things about spending more time with the family, doing more traveling, starting a new hobby. These are all, the kind of the common things that come up on the wish list as people, move from beginning careers towards the middle of their careers, and then transitioning into retirement or financial freedom, or however you want to define that. But the kind of common themes, and it's there's always a variety of things that might be holding people back, but almost inevitably most of them boil down to money, one way or another.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you've noticed this, Dave, but I've noticed a lot with of my clients that we're working with that, COVID-19 and kind of slowing down the world and stay at home being,
Hmm.
the new reality now, that people's perspective has really changed
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways. And
Yeah.
so I think that's kind of the blessing in disguise, for the optimist out there. It's really slowed this fast-paced world down for a lot of people
Right.
and allow
Right.
them to kind of realize how important it is to be home, how nice it is to be home and with the family and the kids. And
Yes.
and it'll be interesting to see when things go back to, whatever the new normal is going to be, how that affects people. Do we get right back
Well,
on the rat wheel and keep running, or is there going to
yeah.
be some sort of, hey, wait a minute, I kind of liked being home all the time?
Well, I think we've already seen that show up in plan updates for a few people where we've seen emphasis shift from like I had a couple folks planning big trips. This is more, and yes, they can't do those right now, but it wasn't about postponing those. It was really about rethinking. I think next year we'd like to, instead of do that big trip to Europe, even if we can, we would rather set up something to be close to the grandkids and maybe have them come visit us at a cabin on the lake, or and shifting. Some of it's a little interesting. We've seen a lot of folks shift emphasis to like home improvement kind of things.
Right.
And I think part of that is everybody spent like March through July staring at the same four walls and thinking about how they could improve it. But to your point, it's forced a kind of a get real about what's important to you thought process that isn't necessarily unhealthy in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely. My family and friends are big into our kids and what's going on with our kids right now. I've got a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old at home, and so that means sporting events and everything in between. And what used to be spending all day after work running around taking them different places, that really kind of went to a dead standstill.
Right.
And so not this, helicopter parent thing. And I got to tell you, that was nice. And so, going back into, we're in 2 soccer leagues right now, or 2 soccer teams right now, and it's not that bad because it's 1 day a week and they don't have school, so we're not picking them up and doing that kind of thing. But, it's nice to kind of be able to take a breather from that stuff and then really kind of figure out what role that plays into going forward.
Right. And figure out that balance.
Yes.
Well, what did you really miss from March to July that you want to see come back? But what did you realize wasn't really that big a deal, and it was actually kind of nice to have that out of the way? I think that's going to be a different list for everybody, but it has kind of reframed that. But yeah, whatever those goals or big picture items on anybody's list, they almost always come down to time and money, and time and money are almost inseparable. If what really would make you happy is taking a summer and hiking the Appalachian Trail, well, you've got to be in a position where you can take time off from your job or actually be in retirement, or there's a money aspect to that, to coming up with the time. If it's just having more free time to spend with the family, that time still has to come from somewhere, and something's got to give. It's often money that makes that happen one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And time is, everybody gets the same amount of time allotted, every year. You can't buy more time. And so it's a finite resource. And so that's, as you know, Dave, a big thing for me in terms of, time blocking, making sure that I'm doing what I need to do and making sure priorities are there. But I'm a big studier of time and how to spend it wisely. And that doesn't necessarily, I feel like a lot of times people, when they think of time, if I could just do more things in less time. And unfortunately, that's not the way that it works. And I found this out myself the hard way, unfortunately, after struggling with it for years, but of finding out, how can you do less in, how can you do more in less time? And I think how you prioritize things, how you set up your day, how you make sure you're getting important things done first is all a big part of that. And I think that really has to go into what you value most. And as you know, when we're doing financial planning and we're going through this process, we want to know what's most important to you so we can help kind of remove those obstacles away from that. And focus on that. And so I tell people all the time, when we're helping you make financial decisions, it's all about what's going to get you closer to what's most important to you, not necessarily what's going to make you more money, right?
Right.
We don't do it in a vacuum of, hey, this is going to be the best thing for you financially. And fortunately or unfortunately in our business, there's always a right answer financially.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, that answer is we should all be living in cardboard boxes with multi-million-dollar investment accounts because
Right.
we're saving
Right.
everything and spending nothing. And
Right.
that's just not reality. And so, how
No.
do we balance that? How do we make sure when we're making a financial decision, it's getting you closer to being able to spend more time with your kids and not necessarily maybe what's the financial best answer based on, how you could maximize savings or
Yeah.
investing.
Yeah. The account value is only worth what you do with it. And,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and it's, we talk about that. And I think you and I both read a book last fall called Happy Money. And
Mhm.
one of the things that stands out to people that read that book, and it's a pretty academic book, written. It's really a good read for just about anybody, but it's got a lot of actual research and studies behind how people use money and what makes them happy. And one thing that always jumps out to, I think everybody that's read the book this to me, that they basically have shown statistically that when incomes get above $75,000 a year, happiness doesn't go up.
Right.
And I think most people expect there's probably that point at some level of income you don't necessarily become happier, but I think most people would have thought that would be in the yeah in a much, I don't know, put a number on it, at $500,000. I don't know, take your
Yeah.
pick, but $75,000 a year doesn't sound like much, but when they look at the key indicators of happiness, it doesn't seem to change when people get above that. That just amazed me. But I think it says a
Yeah.
lot about our society and our view of money.
Right. I was blown away by that too.
Yeah.
75 seemed really low to me. And it's interesting. I think everybody thinks that whatever that number is, where there's not, you
It's
don't get more happiness, is like 20,
it's
30,000 more
thousand
than what they're
what
making,
they're
right?
making. Right, right, right. It's all
Exactly.
relative, and it will always be, the old that book from the 90s of Who Moved My Cheese.
Right. Right.
It's always a moving target that you're never going to quite get there. But that's,
Exactly.
if you but that's I think kind of her point too, is that it's a lot of it is about the framing and how we think about money. You're not really getting any happier with the increased income because you're just spending more, and you're more stressed and you're more tired and you're more worried about where's that next dollar going to come from to make sure that everything stays in place. And so the actual happiness doesn't go up. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I think, the key to that is finding out what's truly important to you, what you want to do in life, and then taking the resources you have and pursuing those things. Once you're over that $75,000 threshold, and you have your basic needs met, then you really have to do the hard planning of figuring out what you want to do so you can
Right,
allocate those resources to that to make that work for you.
right, right. So, um, yeah, and we talk a lot about budgets and that sort of stuff on this podcast and our writing. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money and priorities, and how you budget your money and what you do really says it all. So, um, coming
Absolutely.
at
And we think about money and planning and once you get to that point where you have some, discretionary income and you're comfortable and making sure you have that plan to take some of that stress and that complexity out of it. And
Mhm.
that's why we as financial planners, when we're working with people and we're creating these plans, we want to gear it towards your goals, number one. But number two, we want to take a lot of that stress and anxiety out of
Right,
it as well so that you can focus on what's most important to you. I mean, and I would say our ideal clients are those that want to let us do some of that. We can't do it all, but the
yeah,
background work that we can do to take it off of them so they can spend more time with their families, so that they can go pursue, the Appalachian Trail
yeah,
or whatever it is that's on
yeah,
their bucket list that they want to accomplish and live, without regrets. We love handling some of the back end stuff to set people up to be
right,
able to do that.
right, right. I've been one form or another building portfolios for over 20 years now, and I'll be the first one to tell you, if you want to learn, if you want to do it, the information's out there. We live in the information age. It's never been a better time to be able to learn and do those things on your own. But if that's really how you want to spend your retirement, fine. But I can tell you too, from that experience, it's a job. And, if you enjoy it and if that's what brings you happiness, that's fine. Otherwise, those are just like I wouldn't try to build a house.
Right.
And, people,
exactly.
I've got friends that can attest to my carpentry skills, because I do try to, bang some nails together every once in a while, but it's
There
more
you
for
go.
fun than anything we'd want to have to rely upon.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I'm Dutch, and so you can throw out all the jokes you want about the Dutch people, but we struggle spending money. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
And so being able to learn that about myself, and also learn, okay, what do I not want to do? And really, you should, along with having a list of what you want to do, you should probably have a list of what you don't want to do. Right. And so for me, cleaning my house, we hire somebody to do that. I'm definitely not going to do anything near my car, because that would be disastrous. I'm not going to do my own legal work. So there's some things that, could I probably find a YouTube video that would walk me through that and do it? Yeah. But would it frustrate me and waste a whole bunch of my time? Absolutely. And so, kind of knowing what you enjoy doing and knowing what you don't enjoy doing, and prioritizing those and spending those resources on not having to do what you don't enjoy doing, so you can focus on what you do, I think is a huge help.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at the end of the day, it's a complex world, and few things are more complex than modern finance. And then you throw our own subjective mindset into the mix too. And I guess what I'm trying to get at there is, it's a lot easier for me to give you financial advice than it is for me to give myself financial advice.
Right.
And that's speaking as a professional. Now, if I can't, I'm well aware that it's hard to be objective about my own stuff, and but trying to talk to individuals about their money is a little different, because I'm not going to be emotionally tied to it.
Yeah, and emotions and finance are a huge thing, and what we both see is that people make the worst financial decisions when there's the most chaos going on, when there's the most emotions involved in those decisions. And having somebody that is not emotionally attached to your financial decisions, that can be objective to your situation, is really, in a lot of cases, a godsend.
Slap you on the cheek and say, snap out of it.
Yeah, exactly. What were you going to do again? Let's think about this for a minute.
To your point too, it's it's exactly in the midst of all that chaos when you're going to feel the most like you need to do something.
Right.
And it's a whole nother podcast topic, but 9 times out of 10, the right answer in those situations is to do nothing. But if you can't being able to sort through those things objectively and say, look, you might feel better if you do something, it's not the time to do anything, is half the battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so that's really, I think, a big part of what we do is help people figure out that relationship between happiness and love, for lack of a better word, about what they want to do with their lives and how to make that happen and remove some of those financial obstacles. From a practical standpoint, it's not often we tell people, hey, just go quit your job and go, build your cabin on the side of Walden Pond. But, we can also help you figure out what are the steps you can take to start moving in that direction, or find the barriers you can remove so you get there when, in good time.
Absolutely. And I think, we in general, we don't spend enough time thinking about this stuff. We don't spend enough time talking to our spouses about this stuff. And just having that space to kind of think about it is hugely important. And I know personally, I've kind of gone through our process, the Evoke process, with George Kinder a couple of different times, and the times that I actually went through it and worked with people was much, much more successful than when I just tried to do it on my own. And so having that person there that you can bounce ideas off of, that can be supportive of you, that can energize you, is, really the recipe to success. And some of these things, yeah, you can do them on your own, but if it takes you 4 years to do something on your own that you could do in 6 months to a year with the help of a professional, just think of how many more things you could do in that time frame.
Right, right, right. So I think we've covered that topic pretty well.
Yeah, I think that was a good kind of segue into financial life planning, kind of how we do it, and how and why money, and how it relates to what you want to do in life, and what your happiness is, and how those things really intertwine, and how you can use those to maximize your own personal financial situation.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Nick.
Yeah, this was fun, Dave. We'll see you
All
again
right.
next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Thanks.